And during all those different events and the whole journey, I've had a lot of doubts. I'm human. There's been plenty of times where I said, screw it. Why am I doing this? Is it really worth it? Am I really the right guy? But honestly, the entire time, this entire 8 years, the one thought that has never left the back of my mind is that quitting would feel way worse than failing in the pursuit of success would. Because I knew if I failed along the way, I would learn from it and I would still end up succeeding long term. And so quitting was just never an option. I could never walk away from something I knew that I could accomplish, and I knew I'd rather fail trying to accomplish than throw in the towel on. This month is the 8-year anniversary of Tailored Coaching Method as a business. And it is just so wild. So wild to think that we're here. And less than 5% of businesses make it this far. And to just reflect and think about how far we've come as a company, how many people we've helped around the world, the awards, achievements, and accomplishments we've had as a collective, and the culture and community that we've been developing and nurturing since day one. It's wild. It's humbling, absolute honor to be in a position that I get to lead these type of people. And I just can't wait for more because there's so much more to come. But I wanted to record this to just reflect and share some of what has happened in my 15 years in the industry and 8 years of running this specific business, because I think there's so much to take away from it. I think there are so many lessons that entrepreneurs and any individual striving to become better, chase a goal, build a business, or anything out of the norm that kind of scares them a little bit can learn from what I'm about to tell you throughout the pieces of this story. And this is just a glimpse of everything that has happened and everyone who has been a part of this mission. 15 years ago, I was an 18-year-old, chubby, graduating high school with zero drive and completely lacking clarity on my purpose, my passion. I had zero idea what to do with my life. And I actually think that lack of clarity is what created a sense of curiosity within me to explore what more life had to offer. And I also think that that curiosity led to what became an insecurity, which then became a negative motivating factor for me to change my life for the better. See, it wasn't until my friends left for college and I started having a lot of time by myself because I wasn't going to school, I wasn't partying with friends, I wasn't doing anything really. And that solitude and that time and that space for myself allowed me to explore within a little bit deeper and ask myself some serious questions. One of them being, how did you end up here? I'm only 18 years old and I'm overweight, I'm unhealthy, I'm unathletic, I lack any sense of real confidence or certainty. And to be honest, I'm a little ashamed of myself. And I don't have the tools or the information or the knowledge in order to create change. But one thing I did know, that I wanted to create change. I vividly remember looking in the mirror after getting out of the shower, seeing stretch marks, looking up myself up and down, and then weighing myself on a scale. Two things that I hadn't done up until that point in my life. I was avoiding the scale. I avoided looking in the mirror for longer than a brief second, and definitely for any moment at all with my shirt off. But it wasn't until I stared at the mirror with my clothes off and stared at the scale once I got on it that I was able to identify what the problem was and actually accept that I am here and it's because of me. Which, as painful as that may sound, and really was, it was also what I needed in order to realize that if I got myself here, I can get myself out. And that's when the change started to happen. So my personal journey with fitness began right then and there. I identified the pain I was in, and I also accepted the fact that I put myself there and I was consistently not doing anything about it. But I was going to change that. So I accepted where I was and that I was responsible for it. And I chose to take a step in the other direction and create change. And I took responsibility of that. And once I made that decision, things just started falling into place. Granted, I went the wrong direction quite a few times. I remember trying different fad diets. I remember trying bodybuilding diets out of Men's Health magazine. I remember trying the HCG droplets because I worked at a pharmacy, a clerk at a grocery store pharmacy, and they had those behind the counter, so I bought those. Little droplets under your tongue, only eating 500 calories a day. I lost a bunch of weight. And I gained it all right back. And I went through this cycle over and over again until I started just focusing on the fundamental principles. Healthy foods, eating less junk, diet soda versus regular soda, all of which I didn't really understand anything about except this is probably healthier. When I made those healthier decisions, it put me in a calorie deficit and I started losing weight. And then I started getting into the gym and I started reading bodybuilding.com forums and I started reading blogs and articles on T Nation and some other websites. And I just started becoming obsessed. And I knew at that point that this was going to be my life's work. I hadn't even lost all the weight yet, but I knew for a fact this is what I wanted to do. And the straw that broke the camel's back was one day when I was sitting in Business 101 and I raised my hand, asked the teacher what businesses he had started and ran in his career before becoming a college professor, because we were in a class all about business startups. It was about the fundamental steps you got to take in the beginning to create an LLC. And he said, I didn't run any businesses. And I was dumbfounded. And I just couldn't get over the fact that somebody was going to teach me how to run a business that had never ran a business before. And that moment created a principle in my life that would stick with me forever and continue to stick with me into the core values of this company. And that's authenticity. We will never preach what we don't practice. We will never teach what we have not done and lived ourselves. We strive to have the highest level of authenticity, even in a world that is full of fakes and noise and lacking so much transparency. We will be the difference and we will stick to that. And so in this moment, I left class early. I couldn't do it anymore. And as I'm walking to my car to leave school, there was the PFT program, Personal Fitness Trainer Program. And there was a man named Tim Vagan running a class there, who I later found out was somebody who had coached Olympic swimmers, professional athletes. He was a college rower. He knew people all over the country who were the top tier coaches and strength and conditioning specialists in the country. But I figured, you know what? I'm gonna pop in. So I popped in his class and I stood in the back. What I saw on the screen changed the trajectory of my career. The projector screen had a baby on it and there was lines all over pointing at different things and angles. It was a baby in a quadruped position, moving its right arm with its left leg simultaneously. And they were going over functional movement patterns. The class was called Functional Training 101. And I was mesmerized. I was like, this is what they study and learn. And so I went home immediately and told my dad, who was paying for my community college at the time, Dad, I got to change my degree. I'm going to be a personal trainer. That's what I'm going to do. And naturally, as a concerned father of an 18-year-old kid would say, who, mind you, still hasn't lost all the weight he started to lose in the beginning, so he still had ways to go before he really showed that he's committed to this, he said no. He said, no, I'm not paying for that. And so naturally, as the person I am, who likes to take action, who knows when God puts a dream in his heart, he is going to follow the path towards that dream and trust what God is trying to get him to do. Even back then when I had no real understanding of faith and spirituality, there was something inside me burning and telling me to go that route. So I went, got the paperwork to bring home for my dad, and I forged his signature so that I could change my degree. Months went by before he realized this, because he got something in the mail about my new program. And by then, I was probably down another 10 to 20 pounds. He didn't put up a fight. He let me do it. And throughout school, for the first time in my life, I sat in the front of class. I asked more questions than anybody. I turned in my homework on time, if not early. I went home and I studied more. I went to the teacher's gym after hours to just watch what he did. I was just enthralled in fitness. And then one day a man came into our class. He was presenting to the class, he a guest speaker, and he didn't look like any of the other guys. We had all these different speakers coming to class, and most of them were wearing khakis and polos. And this guy came in with a Jordan sweatsuit on and a matching hat with a chain, dropping F-bombs left and right. And I was a little confused, very curious, but extremely motivated by the fact that this guy owns a successful gym and he's changing lives and he's doing it in such an authentic way, being himself. And so I began to pay for dropping classes to go to his gym and poke him and bug him and ask him questions. And he opened up an internship and I jumped into the internship. And And this man's name is Luca Hosevar, and he gave me a chance to be an intern at his gym and told me when I mentioned to him that my goal was to eventually run a fitness and nutrition company online, which he responded with, "How are you going to make money?" And I said, "I have no idea, but I know there's some guys out there that do it." He told me something that I took to heart that day, and I think that most trainers would not have the patience and endurance or consistency to make happen, but I'm so grateful that I did because it made me the type of coach I am today. He said, "Work for me and train people here every day for 5 years straight. Then you will have the right to become somebody giving advice online." I said, "Done." I trained people there 6 days a week for 6.5 years, moving up in the ranks, traveling all over the country, going to seminars with him, and learning everything I possibly could, training everybody I possibly could, and helping as many people as I possibly could in order to become the best trainer I could be before moving into my own entrepreneurship journey, which I started 6.5 years later in 2017, October. And at that point, I had given up 100% of my clients, had zero money in the bank, zero money coming in payroll, and I had a pregnant fiance who I just signed on a house with, and I told her, I said, "You're gonna have this baby in 9 months, and a couple months after that, you won't be on maternity leave anymore. Before that happens, before your maternity leave ends, I'm gonna build this online business that I've been talking about for years. By the time you get done with maternity leave, you won't even have to go back to work because it's gonna be so successful." And so we went forward with it. I quit, I gave up my clients. We went and got a house, which was in her name because I didn't have any credit or anything to show for at the time. She never went back to work. I chased my dream while having my back against the wall and a fire burning in my belly, and I made it happen. My name is Cody McBroom, and I am the owner and founder of Boom Boom Performance and Nutrition. At this point in time, we were called Boom Boom Performance. All right, we're gonna go over the barbell back squat because my nickname is Cody Boom Boom McBroom. It's been that since high school. And I made a blog. I started as a blog called Boom Boom Performance, and then eventually I was coaching people through that. And at a certain point, I knew I needed to change that name. The reason I knew I needed to change that name is because I knew eventually this wouldn't be just about me. It was going to become so much more than me. There was this feeling inside of me as this was growing that I just knew this was destined to be something big. I knew that we were destined to help people all over the world. I knew that it was destined to create careers for people. And I knew that we could not be Boom Boom Performance for very long. And so I began to really try to think about what the next name could be for this company. And at the time, I specifically remember telling a few people that someday I'm gonna have my version of the Fantasy Factory, just like Rob Dyrdek. Was somebody that I really looked up to. Very successful skateboarder. I grew up skateboarding. They were like, "Why? You have an online business. You can work from home." But I said, "I don't care. Like, I want a podcast studio. I want a gym that I can train at, that I can host events at, that I can film at. I want offices so I don't have to work at home. And when I go home, it's family time. And I want to be able to do fun stuff there. And I want it to be my version of the Fantasy Factory." Almost a decade later, this is building number 2. We got in the first warehouse and now we built this one. And I even have an English bulldog, which did not happen by my choice, but I'm really grateful for my bulldog Bubba now. When you put things out into the universe with a certain level of certainty and a whole lot of curiosity, you will find that all of your habits, attitudes, actions, and decisions will align with that vision. I always kept that Fantasy Factory vision at the forefront of my mind. Now, that still doesn't solve my issue with the name Boom Boom Performance, which sounds more like some kind of weird sex toy or something than it does coaching company for fitness and nutrition. So I knew I needed to change that. And so I started really trying to figure out, what's my why? What is this company's vision? What mission are we on? What are we really after here? And the reason I started Tailored Coaching Method to begin with was autonomy, freedom, control. I didn't want to be controlled by somebody else. I didn't want to be controlled by societal norms that I didn't agree with. I didn't want to be controlled by the values and morals and beliefs of other people. I didn't want my schedule to be dictated based on what a normal 9 to 5 should be. I didn't want to live life the average way. I didn't want to do things by the book. I wanted to do things my way, a tailored way. And it was that way with everything in my life. But as I got into the fitness space, all I saw was boot camp classes and people joining training sessions through Groupons, which left them in and out of different gyms, never getting a result or building any consistency because they were looking for the cheapest route and the quick fix. I saw countless businesses failing to innovate because they were stuck in their old ways, and people running these cheesy sales ads and trying to generate leads through the most ridiculous avenues and actions. I saw people failing to get referrals from anybody or have any good word of mouth because they didn't get any results. I saw countless gym members at these different gyms, and they just were not being successful. Trainers having great fun workouts, but then their clients going home and binging or drinking too much or doing things that were sabotaging the results they could be getting. Yet I was on this mission to change that, because what I was doing was not just in the gym, it was bleeding into their life outside the gym. And that's what meant so much to me. And so I got tired of seeing the lack of results in the industry. I got tired of seeing people prioritize marketing over good, real coaching and impactful coaching. And I got so sick of, and I still am to this day, seeing average people living the average life based on what society deems and defines as average and normal, which is, for lack of better terms, pathetic. It's unhealthy. It's out of control, it's unproductive, it's lacking growth and clarity, it's very negative, and it's so draining. And when I see these people going through this, thinking this is just how life is, it crushed me. It really, really crushed me, because I knew that that's not how life is. And I would say this to clients, and we printed it on shirts even. I would tell them, your body is the fastest path to power, which is my way of saying fitness is the door. It's the gateway to changing your life forever. It's the catalyst that creates growth personally, in your marriage, in your spiritual life, in your emotional well-being, in your mental health, in your environment, in your financial health and wealth. Training and getting in good shape made everybody's life better. And I saw it client after client after client telling me, I got a raise because of how confident I am and how much energy I have on the job. I'm dating again because I have the confidence to go out and meet people. I'm patching up the relationship with my parents or my brother or even my wife or husband, because I understand how to connect now. I understand the value of relationships. All these things that stemmed off of fitness that I wasn't qualified to teach or train people on, but it was happening right in front of me. And so as I started seeing how what I was doing was making an impact in a different way and was going against the grain, it wasn't following the normal rubric, and it was teaching people skills for the rest of their lives. And I witnessed my company grow well beyond 7 figures in revenue without a single advertisement dollar spent. No ads, organic, free content, tons of referrals, word of mouth, just serving people. And that's not to say ads are bad or you can't spend money on marketing. It's to say that the passion I had and the passion my team has now outweighed what we needed anywhere else. And it created this culture. And I'll never forget the moment where I was talking about my company in front of 150 coaches at a seminar I was speaking at. And I said, the way we do things is a tailored coaching method. And when I said those words, I immediately looked over at one of my teammates that was there, and they gave me that look like, that's it, bro. I finished my talk. I emailed my lawyer right then and there because I purchased the LLC, started filing all the processes. Like, that's it, Tailored Coaching Method. That is our company. And that set a catalyst, because tailored and tailoring a plan to an individual started becoming a buzzword, just like individualized or customized plans were. Except now I owned that word. I owned that phrase. I created Tailored Coaching Method. And it's that name that really speaks to the core of what we do, which is tailoring the process to an individual to help them create a better body, but not just that. It's to transform their body and develop their mind so that they can live a tailored life. And a tailored life is not what I deem a great life. It's what they deem a great life, because we put them in the driver's seat. We help them take back control of their life and begin to live the type of life that they know they deserve and desire most. And the journey has been crazy. A lot of growth and a lot of challenges. You know, the early days of me getting into the industry and me starting the business were honestly so fun. A lot of it was a blast because it was easier times. The world wasn't so crazy. And it was easier to get stuff done. Everything was new. Everything was innovating. I was younger. I had less responsibilities. But also, to be honest, I think looking back, I just don't see the hard stuff that hard anymore. And I think that's where Choose Hard eventually came from. is that you always need to choose the hard path to get to the better life, because the easy path now leads to a harder life later. And when I was choosing hard then, and I was stressing and I was overwhelmed and I was trying to be a new father and I was trying to build a business and I was trying to do all these things and figure out how to be a leader, figure out how to be an entrepreneur, figure out how to invest, figuring out how to market better, figuring out how to change with the times and innovate as the industry changed. It was stressful, it was hard. But to be honest with you, I look back now and I wouldn't change it for the world. And I think it's given me a perspective that's different now. So when I run into difficult times, hardships, struggles, speed bumps, roadblocks, I can sit there and go, someday I'm gonna look back and say I wouldn't change this for the world. And just knowing that allows you to get through it a little bit easier and learn the lessons right then and there instead of waiting till later on to reflect back and find the lessons in the struggles you went through. And so, yeah, I had a lot of struggles. One of the biggest obstacles I faced as an entrepreneur, though, to be honest, was later on. It was after the halfway point, probably like year 5 and 6. Year 5 and 6, I realized that we were going to continue scaling and growing and building something bigger and bigger. And that comes with a lot of responsibility. And the bigger your business goes, the more legal issues and responsibilities you have. The bigger your team is, the more people you have to hire and the more people you have to fire. The more bad things you find out, even though you find out more good things too. But we're human and we gravitate towards focusing on the negative. So scaling the team and continuing to be a good leader, staying by my integrity and my values throughout the whole process, and learning how to hire and fire better, because I've made great hires and I've made bad hires. I've made wrong fires and I've made fires way too late that I should have fired them way sooner. And it's brutal to say because everybody who has ever stepped foot in this company was a good human who I loved. But there's times where just because they're a good human doesn't mean they're in the right seat. And that's a hard position to be in. Anybody else on the team can see it, can call it out, and can agree with it, but they don't got to do the thing. They don't have to act on it. So that's been the hardest part. And some of the most pivotal moments that shaped the direction of Tailored Coaching Method, some of them sparked from good things, some of them sparked from bad things, honestly. The first one being my time spent at Vigor Ground. I had a great situation with a great mentor at a young age, and I was surrounded by experts in the field. I was blessed in a way that I got to learn from some of the brightest minds and some of the hardest workers from day one. And that really shaped me as an individual. I also think that some of the most pivotal moments for us were right around COVID and all the things that followed. COVID was a crazy time for any business owner, whether you're online or not. And once COVID hit, it seemed like world event after world event after world event happened. And with all those things that happened came difficulties, came decisions, came a lot of testing our ability to stay firm in our values, show integrity and authenticity, and it continues to be that way. And those who show authenticity, those who double down on their values, who have integrity and stay aligned with what they set out to do, what they said they would do, what they said they were going to accomplish, those are the ones that win. The people that jump ship, that flake, that quit because it gets hard, because they don't want to offend somebody, because they don't want to take an L, they don't want to fail, they don't want to lose followers, those are the people that lose. And it's hard, it's not easy. But that's been a pivotal moment, those world events. And then hitting year 7. We hit year 7 and we had doubled down on our values as a company, and I had doubled down on my values as a leader. And it was at that moment that I created something called the Purpose Blueprint. And we set as a team our vision, our mission, our values, and the principles we would pay attention to and abide by throughout our journey. We made a pact. We signed this document and we decided this is how we are going to contribute to society, contribute to the coaching industry, and show up as individuals on and off the job. And that was an extremely pivotal moment because that created a sense of strength, courage, and really a tight-knit bond in my team, while also pushing members of the team out, because it created a new standard and responsibility that scared some people. And I understand why. It's a lot to ask of everybody. And it separated us. We lost individuals because of it, and all the love to them, I totally understand, because it was necessary. They moved on and we grew stronger. And that was a really pivotal moment. And you know, there's been a lot of amazing transformations. There's been a lot of relationships formed. There's been a lot of projects and events and things that we've done. And as I reflect on the impact we've had in the last 8 years, the achievements, the accomplishments, the awards, the people we've served over the last 8 years, and the legacy I would like myself and this company to leave, there's a few things that come to mind. And the first one is just how undervalued, underappreciated, and underrated one of the key elements of our coaching method is to the rest of the industry. So many people fail to understand this. So many companies are trying to automate more and more instead of trying to relate more and more and create bonds and relationships with people. Where others have doubled down on automations, we have doubled down on relations, developing and nurturing relationships with our clients, building connections, increasing communication, focusing on community and culture. Those things have done so much more for the results and the experience of our clients than the macros or the training programs ever have. Both of which I love doing, creating, and diving into the science with. We pride ourselves on being a science-backed company because everything we do has to be backed by science. But it's the connection that we create with clients that separates us from the rest. And I would think that's truly what has allowed us to have such a big impact and continue to help people all around the world, organically reaching thousands of people. And so when I'm looking forward at the future of Tailored Coaching Method, that's the thing that's on my mind the most: community. How do we develop more community? How do we invest into our current community more? How do we foster these relationships even more? How do we connect on a deeper level? How do we host live events? How do we get people to fly out to our headquarters? How do we do these things that allow us to double down on the relationships and the connections and the community that we already have and are continuing to grow and build? That's what helps coaching create the best results possible and the best life possible. And for anybody who's been on the fence about coaching, that's the one thing that I would hope you take away from this, to give you the nudge to go over the fence and finally sign up for coaching with us or with anybody. It's that coaching is the one thing that guarantees you will reach your full and greatest potential. Excellence is on the other side of coaching, because great coaching gets you through all the stuff in between where you're at right now and where you need to be. It's what helps you bridge that gap, but it's what teaches you and helps you develop the traits, the skills, the characteristics you need in that middle area in order to stay on the other side. Because too many people make the leap and then go right back to where they were. And the reason they go right back to where they were is because they work with or follow cheap coaches with a lack of understanding of human needs. They don't understand the psychology and the personal needs of a person. They don't understand how to coach and develop somebody's self-control, self-discipline, self-belief, self-respect to create a full transformation of themselves and help them stay on that other side. And so looking back over the last 8 years, coaching has done so much for me. It's done everything for me. I owe everything to coaching. My personal growth as a coach, as a father, as a husband, as an entrepreneur, as a man. Through this journey, coaching has changed my life on all those aspects. I wouldn't know my wife, my best friends, some of the most important people to me, some of the most impactful people to me. I wouldn't have developed the skills I needed to be a great father. I wouldn't have developed any of the skills to run a business if I didn't coach first, because coaching always comes first inside of our business. And if I can leave anything behind, any legacy with this empire that we are still actively trying to build, this worldwide community of like-minded individuals striving for excellence and to be better on a daily basis, it would be the impression that life is a hell of a lot better when you choose to live it at a higher standard. And I just hope that we can set that standard and help people increase their expectations for themselves, because I am yet to meet a single person who doesn't have more in them, who doesn't have a greater potential to reach, who couldn't execute more often in their life, who couldn't set bigger goals, who couldn't push forward just a little bit further, reach a little bit higher, and become a little bit greater. When you do that, life is just so much better. So right now, I hope that you can celebrate 8 years of business with me, and let this be an invitation to follow along if you haven't been following along, and to continue following along if you've been here for years and years. Because no matter how long you've been following me or this company, I appreciate it more than I can say. You have helped me create a life I could only dream of. And over the years to come, we are going to do a whole lot more to impact you and everybody else we come in contact with. Stay tuned for the series of podcasts and YouTube videos to come, where I will dive deeper into each season of my career and this company's growth so that you can truly join us in the journey and learn from all the losses and wins that I've experienced along the way.